including the nominated MPs.
Including the
but anyway, let's make progress. I want us to listen to something because you're starting your term. So many changes have taken place, including what the Salaries and Remuneration Commission. No, I'll get back to that, Honorable Okello.
Okay.
Salaries and Remuneration Commission gazetted just before the election about the benefits, remuneration for different state officers, all the way from the president to the members of county assemblies. Listen to what Speaker Wetangula says about this parliament.
We live incrementally. We don't live by reduction. Nobody in their right frame of mind will interfere with your car allowances, with your mileage reimbursements, and with your mortgage and everything else that you have been having, because that is your entitlement. And as your speaker, I'll ensure that we engage positively, and we have advised SRC that they are not frustrators but facilitators of members of parliament to do their work well. Simple things like the engine rating of cars that members use. You know, a member of parliament who represents North Horr, for example, that constituency is bigger than the former Central, Nyanza and Western provinces put together. You surely don't expect a member of that constituency to be constrained in the manner he serves his people, some who live about 100 kilometers apart.
All right, that is Speaker Moses Wetangula speaking about reacting to the Gazette notice that came from SRC a few weeks before the election. And Honorable Koech, I'm just wondering, what is the big issue here? Because yes, the SRC appears to have scrapped the sitting allowance for plenary, the days that you're in Parliament. Is it Tuesday to Thursday, where you have a total of 4 sessions? But everything else appears to remain. What's the fuss about?
Let me tell you, I think SRC has made Parliament one of their attack places every other time that they feel they need to restructure salaries of state officers and civil servants. Because when we left for our elections, they first of all removed, there is a per diem, especially for travelers out of the country that were brought down from where they were. There is a sitting allowance in the plenary that were equally removed. And then I think they even went further to bring down our salaries from what it was, or slightly added our salaries from what it was. So all these things are the packages that we signed when we came in 2017 to 2022. It is unconstitutional. Like the Speaker is saying, we live incrementally. You don't just one day decide that, no, the wages of these people are supposed to be this figure, and you decide on your own without consultation. There was such meeting yesterday that the Speaker had mentioned. And the big fight is not even about what they've scrapped or what they've reduced. It is about how it was done. You can't arbitrarily just decide that today you can give members of parliament this, and tomorrow you can take away from them this. That is absolutely wrong. The same per diems and allowances that SRC are scrapping from the members of parliament, they themselves are enjoying. So that is a question now we are asking. Where do we stand in this whole issue? For me, I think SRC should behave. It is unfortunate that members of parliament have become their punching bag. And I think for once, as a house, we will assert our authority on this matter. We become, and you know, every time, even the public is made to believe that members of parliament earn so much, and it is always a target to reduce. And we are put into a war with the public that is not very nice. Is that the allowances that you're putting? No. So I wanted to show you what they are taking. So it's a plenary. It is.
Yes, I just wanted to read the Gazette notice. And the member of National Assembly or the Senate, the basic salary of 426,000, house allowance of 150,000, salary market adjustment of 134,000, totaling to 710,000. I think it's slightly higher than what was before this Gazette notice in terms of the consolidated pay?
But I can tell even at this point, the first salary, you'll be very lucky to see a member of parliament earning even 10,000 shillings. I served the entire 5 years last parliament. I think my payslip was probably 2,000 or 3,000. Because you get to engage your payslip to so many things. The speaker did say exactly what we do.
Okay, we'll get to that. But I'm also looking at, yes, they say that the remuneration set herein takes into account the reviewed job evaluation, grading, and includes compensation for plenary sitting. So the plenary sitting, which is 5,000 per sitting.
5,000 per sitting, yeah.
If you attend 4 sittings in a week, that's 20,000. That appears to have been taken away. Then also talks about the allowances for committees. I think those are the figures you are seeing on the screen. Chairperson, 15,000 per sitting, a maximum of 16 sittings that would give 240,000. A vice chair would get a maximum of 192,000 if they attend all the 16 sittings in a month. For a member of parliament, member of a committee, a maximum of 120,000 shillings for 16 committee sittings. Then goes ahead to provide for the sort of car that you can get for speaker, for member of parliament, reimbursement of 7.5 million. The speaker is saying the car grants have been taken away. I'm not understanding that. Or you don't like a reimbursement, you prefer?
So reimbursement means that you first of all, you have to identify a car, then you have to buy a car. So many people are saying it's really cumbersome. Why is it not that then you can provide as well cars to all members of parliament if that is what they feel? Because in 2017, 2022 and earlier, all you needed to do was, you know, immediately you sign in, you just sign and you get your car grant without many other things. Then you decide on what car you want to buy, depending on where you come from.
Okay. Mheshimiwa Okello, when you look at, because the car maintenance allowance remains, maximum of 356,000 shillings. The mileage claim remains. Is there a maximum? No, it's saying 116 shillings per kilometer. If you're beyond 700 kilometers, that is 350 to and fro, then it should be calculated based on the actual distance. Any specific problem with that?
Well, it is good to underscore, Sam, that the last 4 parliaments, SRC has had a trend of reducing benefits and perks to members of parliament. And they do it quite cleverly, that they wait until the sine die recess, when Parliament naturally prorogues, then they bring in all these changes. Whereas when they know that there will be no one to make noise around them. And they also know the attrition rate in this country, which this is the first time that we have had the least attrition rate of members of parliament. We usually have 75% of members of parliament go home. And that gives, you know, SRC some kind of consolation that the 75% newcomers will not make as much noise. This time, only 51% went home. And I do not understand. Probably we served much better than those who've been there before. But the SRC has always taken this trajectory. Some it is good to underscore the point that PSS, the principal secretaries, fall under the same job category as members of parliament, going by the computation of the government. Now, if you have a principal secretary with a government vehicle, with a government driver, with a bodyguard, with a house allowance, and all those good things that come with their offices, yet we fall under the same scheme and we have none of this. You remember when we brought up the issue of house allowance to members of parliament, SRC refused to have that on our payslip. And they didn't have any reason. So again, they came to the mortgage. And there is always a misconception. A mortgage is a loan on housing. And SRC had a very big problem with this until the leaders of the House had to intervene. I mean, this is money that you are given and you pay back. And what is the problem with that? So SRC must be on a mission that we do not really understand. Again...
But Honorable Okello, I mean, surely, because I'm comparing the Gazette notice of 2017 versus the 2022 one, including the allowances for committee sittings. a chairman was getting 8,000 shillings per sitting. Now it's rising to 15,000. If you look at the transport compensation, that time it was up to 375 kilometers, so double 750, but the monthly maximum allowance was 266,000. This time around it's up to 353,000. So is it really fair for you to be attacking a commission that has actually enhanced your benefits?
Well, you know, they say the devil is in the detail. Whereas they would want to paint a rosy picture. And by the way, the 710,000 is the maximum under which a member of parliament can be paid. That is there. So they chose to get the maximum. But listen, whereas people tend to make a living out of other things, such as the sitting in the house, the per diem when you travel abroad, because again, you don't expect me to travel to a place like America, for instance, and expect a member of parliament to be sleeping in River Road equivalent in the US. I mean, it also feeds into my security and all such of things. They have reduced per diems by half. So whereas on this other side, they would want to appease you that they have enhanced it to the maximum, on this other side, you have actually lost. So what they are simply saying, don't travel abroad for any discussion, for any meeting, for any training, stay here at home. And today we are having our induction in Safari Park. People gave proposals such as, what if I operate from my home? Do I necessarily have to stay in Safari Park? They said you have to stay in Safari Park, otherwise you take care of yourself. I mean, these are the details that are missing in this kind of arrangement by SRC, which we will be looking into with the leadership, as our speaker has said, going forward. So the question that we will also be asking...
What is your new per diem if you travel to America?
I think it was, before it was about 80,000 shillings. It has now been brought down, I hear, by half.
Yeah,
to 50.
Yeah.
Yeah, to 50.
I cannot find that detailed in the Gazette notice.
Yeah.
It's in a memo.
It was a memo, yeah, sent to Parliament.
All right.
But I wanted to add this, that we shall also be asking if SRC needs this budget that we allocate them.
That's intimidation. You're supposed to facilitate. Honorable Kuria, your take on this and the true picture, because comparing the Gazette notices of 2017-2022, it appears that you actually have a better rate of remuneration than before.
Yes, Sam. I want to take you through, first of all, to the functions of the Salaries and Remuneration Commission as per the Constitution. The first two, they're supposed to inquire into and advise on the salaries and remuneration to be paid out of public funds. Number two, to keep under review all matters relating to the salaries of remuneration of public officers. And three, they're talking about harmonization. So I'm talking about the first two functions. Then why is it that, especially at the beginning of every parliament, the discussion about salaries and remuneration is always about members of parliament? There are three arms of government. There is a judiciary, there is an executive, there's a legislature. Why this discussion we're having here today? Why is it not when it's about the remuneration of judges? When is it not about the remuneration of directors of commissions, about principal secretaries? Someone will tell you for a fact that there are a lot of public officers, there are a lot of directors of some very funny briefcase institutions that draw very hefty allowances, that drive, that are facilitated to do nothing, as in literally to do nothing. But I think Parliament becomes really, to be honest, really a patch. And I really do not want to go really into the details. But SRC has a bigger function than just members of parliament. But every time we make it an issue about parliaments, because the idea here is to set up against the public. Because the moment now, the people that elected me from Molo hear me talking about my salaries and my remuneration, then it has political repercussion. And that's why for this discussion, I'm also trying to be very careful about what I say, because I do not want to run in trouble with my employers. But really, I would say SRC SRC exercise your roles and duties effectively and fairly. And the publicity that you give and the public debates that you open about this remuneration, do it across all the political offices, across all the public offices, and not just targeting. And so that the discussions are not about members of parliament. And again, with this, Sam, it's very unfortunate that, again, this debate will go on and on. It's going to be the topic in our media houses. And we have very many other important things.
But you know, Honorable Kuria, in the first topic about majority, you said we're belaboring the point. We should stop discussing it. On this topic about the benefits of members of parliament, you're saying we should stop talking about it. But let me just highlight this to you so that you tell me what you think about it. Because 2017, SRC Gazette notice said that the members, a state officer in the Senate and the National Assembly, shall be entitled to a mortgage of up to 20 million shillings. The mortgage is repayable at an annual interest rate of 3%. That was 20 million shillings. This time round, SRC has gazetted that you're entitled to a mortgage of up to 35 million shillings for a member of the Senate or a member of the National Assembly. For the speakers of the Senate and the National Assembly, the mortgage is 40 million shillings. So I'm just wondering, why the noise? Yet it's actually a sweeter deal.
Let me tell you from a mathematical, from accounting perspective, this mortgage is supposed to be repaid within 5 years.
Right.
And in as much as you may want to take that 5 million, I would wish to take a mortgage of that 5 million, but I can't. Because the payslip will not allow that deduction to be across the 5 years. As now, you add to that fund from your other sources. And again, I would say this, let SRC do their job. I think as National Assembly, as you've done before, we'll abide to whatever they say. They can scrap all those allowances as much as we're concerned, if they have to really. But really, let us not make the discussions about every parliament, about the remuneration of parliament, because we waste time.
You know, Mheshimiwa Kuria, I understand where you're coming from, but you see, the leader of the National Assembly, Speaker Moses Wetangula, has spoken in support of members of the National Assembly and told them that actually your benefits will be restored. But I'm looking at the Gazette notices and noticing that from a gross salary of 621,000, as per the Gazette notice of 2017, it is rising to 710,000 shillings. What is the problem with an increment?
Then we are talking about the same thing. If it's an increment, well and good. The only thing that the Speaker said is it cannot be a reduction. So as long as it's not a reduction, then it's fine.
So why are the members of National Assembly, I mean members of Parliament, complaining, if you know?
I am not complaining.
Well, you know, it is a difficult topic, as a matter of fact, considering that our economy is not behaving well. And, of course, members of Parliament become a very easy target on matters discrimination, on matters to criticize. You know, they are usually the soft spot. And if the people that we represent do not have food on their table, and they are hearing on this other side, people are haggling on who should be paid what, then they have a reason to ask those difficult questions. But again, mortgage is not an entitlement to begin with, and it is a loan paid back at a particular percentage, so interest rate. So and there is a very strict rule on this, not just 5 years. You have to clear your mortgage 6 months before the next election. So you can imagine if you go for 35 million, which is beyond my pay grade, how much will I be paying on this mortgage at the end of the day? I will be earning 10,000 shillings or even less.
But it's optional anyway, right?
Yeah, it is discretionary, yes. So SRC should not come out to say that they have done so well to members of Parliament by asking them to go and take a loan to get a house. I mean, that is nothing. That is basically nothing.
What specific thing, because I want us to exit from this conversation, what specific thing do you want them to do?
Just to treat us equally. If we fall under the same, category with the principal secretaries, let us be treated as such. But, I had my speaker, a friend of mine, Honorable Wetangula, saying that he will endeavor to talk to SRC. And I think he had a meeting with them yesterday to see whether they can revert back those things that members of Parliament have lost. Assuming they, stand their ground.
The plenary sitting allowance. But then the statement says that the pay you're getting is inclusive of that. It takes care of that.
Well, that is what.
And actually, if you take 621,000 and add plenary allowance of 20,000 a week times 4, that is 80. It comes to 701,000. You're getting 710,000. So it appears it's already taken care of. I would imagine. I don't know.
No, what we asked SRC to do was to give a breakdown of what we earn. Up to now, and that was done like 3 years ago, up to now they do not know that computation.
Okay.
So it is a problem. But what I'm saying is the Speaker has, made an undertaking that he will be speaking with the SRC to see whether it will be possible to revert back some of these benefits that we have lost.
Okay.
But assuming that SRC stands its ground, what is the recourse? We'll just make do with what they have.
Okay, all right. I want us to quickly look at some feedback that has come through. Then we can talk about something else, starting with the tweets via Citizen TV Kenya. Sam Gituku, the hashtag to use is daybreak. Waiting for the tweet so that we can see what Kenyans are saying about the issues of the morning. And we begin with takes a bit of time. Kenya, you're saying that the majority issue stems from parties moving from one coalition to the other. The law must be fixed to define whether majority is determined pre-election or post-election. Lastly, how can political parties form a coalition political party? Well, then Truth Gauge, you're saying, or is it Gauge? The busing of leaders, it's actually English, in London made economic sense. In 2018, New Papua Guinea government, one of the poorest countries, bought 40 Maseratis and other 300 Porsche cars to impress politicians during APEC conference. They couldn't resell them. Well, Atanas Mavuti, you're saying that Azimio passed the Political Parties Amendment Act, which has come to haunt them in Parliament. Azimio One Kenya is a political party with no member in Parliament, while Kenya Kwanza is a coalition of political parties. Based on this, they are the minority. All right? Let Kenya Kwanza know that using numbers to dominate every institution in the country is not good for good governance. Jubilee used the so-called tyranny of numbers in Parliament, and I'll see how indebted we are. Let's listen to reason. We'll come back to some more feedback of what Kenyans are saying, but I want us to quickly talk about, of course, it's been